All right, brother. We are in the middle of a cool conversation about student leadership. We kind of talked last time about creating the leadership team or the process. And this is one of my new favorite things that you and I have. We have certain things that we bring up repeatedly. And one of those things that we've started bringing up is the process is more important than the goal. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's amazing to stop and go, even in this situation, the process, even in that situation, it's a process. You got to follow the process. And so we talked about the process of choosing your leaders and auditions and that kind of stuff last time. But so listen, we've been through the process, and you didn't have anybody call you for a meeting. Everybody accepted the process, and we're good to and we're good to go.
Only 15
now what?
kids quit band and a couple of parents slashed tires on my pickup. But other than that, it was a really smooth sail. It was fine, Derek.
So now what?
Now we have this beautiful Corvette of a leadership team, and now we got to figure out, how do we drive this thing? How are we going to make this thing work? So
Right.
now we're going to, and I can't go through everything that I do because it would take way too long. I don't do them anymore because I just kind of, got old, I guess. But I used to do big leadership workshops, and I would spend 6-7 hours with a band leadership team, and we'd go step by step through the process of what to do. So what I kind of want to do in today's is kind of talk about some things with goal setting and setting up processes and action plans and communication, things of that. And that's kind of the basis of it. Just like in a band, it's tuning and tone. You know what I mean?
Non-negotiables. Yeah.
Yeah. If a band plays in tune and has good tone quality, somehow the rest of it seems to work out eventually.
Right.
There's some technique, obviously, but if you pick your music correctly, tone and tuning, if you pick your leadership team correctly, it's communication, goals, action plans, process, to make it happen. So it doesn't have to be too complicated. So I'm just going to go through a few things.
That's my mantra in life. That's kind of if I have to, just about any situation, I'll boil it down to communication and relationships. If you have great communication, and if you have enough of a relationship that they understand, they might not agree with you, but they can trust you.
Yes.
Then typically most things work to the positive.
And that's so important that you said that, because that's definitely part of this process, that we all in our lives, we have people that we respect and we trust, but we don't really agree with.
Right. I agree with what you just said. Yeah.
We forget that as band directors, that they don't have to be 100% Mike Lunney in order to, as long as we have a trust built up, a good relationship, then they might not agree with the fact of how I design the show or how I want to do this rehearsal, but they will do it,
Right.
But if you lose that trust, oh man, they'll just.
And I would argue that it's healthy to have dissenters in your circle.
I would
say as long as the relationship exists and the communication is clear.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I appreciate it
properly.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we're going to do it Mike Lunney's way.
Yeah, unless the principal shows up. And then
you know what I mean? Stop bringing that.
Principal goes, Mike, we're not going to extend your contract. Oh, okay. I guess the kids won. Band 1, Mike Lunney 0. That's the score today.
But then there's not very good communication or a relationship going on.
Yeah, there's been an apocalyptic breakdown and everything right there. Okay. The work to do. Okay. I like to kind of start with, obviously we talked in the last podcast about sitting down with the bigger positions like head drum major, assistant drum major, section leaders, and then have smaller meetings with your quartermasters, load crew, uniform, because theirs is more logistical. Right. I guess the best way to put it is some of the positions are more leadership positions and some are more managers positions. They just manage the logistics.
I like the way you said that. Some of those are logistics positions.
Yeah.
Some of those are management, people management.
Yeah, people management. So, and hopefully you've got the right kids in the right place, or if not, you're ready to teach them like crazy how to be that kind of person. But I like to start immediately by talk about goals.
Okay.
And you know me well enough, Derek, to know that I'm a process guy, atomic habits, all that stuff. But I think goals are important. Goals, we should have goals, and those goals need to be written down. And there's different types of goals. Some goals are measurable, very distinctive. Our goal might be as an individual student to make the all region band. What a measurable goal that is. Either you
Right.
made it or you didn't.
Right.
Some goals are good goals, but they're not as measurable. I want the band to play at a technically higher level. Or I want our
Okay.
band culture to be stronger this year. That's a hard goal to measure. I mean, we can think about
Right.
it and we can write down things and go, yeah, I think it is a better band culture. But if our goal is to make it to state marching, that's a pretty measurable goal.
Right.
You make it to state or you don't make it to state. That doesn't mean you win or lose, but that's a measurable goal. So I like to start with them have them write down some personal goals. They might just want a better looking date to homecoming. I don't know. It could be a personal goal.
Is that measurable?
It is measurable. I mean, we could get a whole judging panel to decide if their date is a prettier date.
There she is.
Then section goals, like what do you want things your section to achieve? You want them to have and this is a measurable goal. They might say, I've had kids say, we play off our music. I want our section to be the first section to play it all off. That's measurable because they've taken care of their business. Eric Rath up in Amarillo, he has a syllabus where the kids play off their music for concert contest. And I was up there, and his trumpets had won the award of being the ones to get it done first. And I think they had like a steak dinner or something. I mean, it was like it's pretty extravagant for his top band. I was like, oh, I wish I played trumpet in that band because I could use a steak dinner. I like that. So it's a cool deal. So they have goals and the full band goal. Okay. And I always like to tell them that there's a 20-year study on goals by Yale University. And they just asked graduating seniors, they said, how many of you have written down goals for what you want to achieve in life? They found in that senior class that 3% had goals that were written down. 97 had not written down goals, but they might have had goals. I think we all think about what are we going to do next, or do we want to get married? Do we want to have kids? Do we want to work for a certain corporation? But what they found out after 20 years? The 3% that had written down goals, now this is Yale University now, 3% with written down goals had amassed more income than the other 97% that said they had not had written down goals. They'd followed these kids through as they became adults and they went through life for 20 years. And I'm not saying that it's all causation kind of thing. Was it just the smarter kid? I don't know. But it does show a little bit of credence to the fact that maybe it's okay to write down goals.
You're saying it didn't say that that the people that wrote down their goals never accomplished anything.
Right. And we're not saying that money is everything, but even if you're if you're the best band director, you're going to probably get a pay raise somewhere along the way. Excuse me.
Right. Well, if your group continues to reach their goal.
Yeah, if you're the best custodian, then pretty soon you'll be in charge of the whole campus. Pretty soon you'll be in charge of the whole ISD. You'll be ordering all the different waxes and whatever, and you'll be managing other people. And all of a sudden you'll be almost like in a principal status. But they don't give that to the worst one who doesn't have any goals. You know what I mean? So money's not everything, but money's a good representative of, for the most part, for success. I don't know if everyone would agree with that.
In the realm of life lessons, as you're doing an interview, somebody can say blah, 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 and you can say, well, I set this goal to do this, and this is the process I used to accomplish that, and I've completed it, or I'm in the process of completing that one. And it shows somebody that you're not just randomly wait for stuff to cross your desk before you decide to do something.
Yeah. So many people operate in life in a defensive stature. You know what I mean? It's like when something happens, then I react to it. And we all have to do that some time or another. But yeah, I like what you just said. Be more proactive in your interview and saying, these are the things I see that are potential problems, and here's my potential solutions to those problems.
I tell people that work with me all the time, it's much easier to forgive a proactive mistake than I didn't know what to do, so I didn't do anything.
Yes.
So,
no doubt.
Can I throw something deep at you real quick before you move on?
Okay.
And you can, this is open for your rebuttal. That you and I talk about process all the time. The process is more important, et cetera, et cetera. But if you don't have a goal, you really can't create a process.
You're exactly right.
you can't create a process for something you don't know why you're doing. It's not a process. You're just doing stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you don't
And
have
so
a why to the process.
they are tied together. And that's, to me, that's about the only use for a goal, is to have the target. And then now you have the process of how to get to the target. You know,
Right. You can
I'm not
break it down
being
into
simplistic.
chunks. Yep.
Yeah, you break it into chunks because, you know, you can almost imagine, I'm sure you can see this in most of these leadership deals I did. I would say, what's your full band goal? What's your goal for band? Said, we want to go to state marching. And it's like, that's a good goal. Now let's talk about the 150 things that need to happen in an action plan.
So how are we going to get there?
And so it can't be just like on a American Idol. I just want this so bad. My whole life I've wanted to be a singer. You know, that just drives me. I can't even watch that stupid show because of that. You know, because everyone thinks that your emotions and your attitude are what drives you to a goal.
The impetus is usually a sad story.
Yes.
It's propelling them.
Yeah, and I'm compelled to do this because this happened to my family, and I feel for them and the problems that happened to their family, but that's all a bunch of BS, man. It's
that is not
goal.
A process.
It's not a process. There has to be a process, and we can sympathize with the problems they've gone through, but it has to be a process. Has to be a process.
So here's a quiet part out loud. Because I enjoy talent. I love seeing, you know, when it catches me from a unique place. But if you do a little bit of a deep dive into a YouTube, you'll find out how many of those contestants have already been on other shows that are just like that.
Right.
American Idol was on America's Got Talent, was on X Factor, was on
Voice,
and they just kept bouncing around doing those. It's not like this was my one-time goal, that my dream and my dream's coming true. No, this is just the next show you were on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
No, you're exactly right. And there's been a lot of people been on those shows and didn't win and became really good musicians. I know there's a lady, Aubrey Logan. Have you ever heard that name before? Trombone player, jazz singer.
Absolutely. She sings well too. Yeah.
You know where she made her big debut at?
I do not.
Star Search, Ed McMahon.
Oh, wow. That's going back a ways.
She lost in the first round because they said,
yeah,
we have no need for someone who plays trombone and can sing.
Jazz trombone. What is that?
Yeah. And she's a quiet part out loud here. She's my celebrity crush. I'm going to go see her in Austin. If she's married, has a kid, so this is just Mike Lunney's problem, you know. But she's before she got married, it was like, man, she is something.
Whole pass list.
Oh my God, she is something, you know. So that's Mike Lunney's quiet part out loud. So if you want to know who my celebrity crush is, it's Aubrey Logan. You know,
that's awesome.
Great musician and really.
All right, how do we get there from goals for your leadership team?
Well, Mike Lunney has certain goals. Even today,
What's your process?
I'm trying to up my process. I'm looking for a sugar mama.
You're waiting for her to watch a YouTube and go,
oh, there's Mike Lunney. No. She's going to leave her husband and her child, you know, and come see my, yeah, right. Okay.
Wow.
All right. Enough about my bizarre, the bizarre mind of Mike Lunney. Okay. So as we go through that, we go talk about the goals. We set our goals. Okay. So I'm just going to go through each one of these little things kind of small because we spend like 6 hours doing this on the first day.
Right.
Okay. So we talk about a simple question. Why do people communicate? And we kind of come down to the answers that are real common, you know. One is to belong. Another is to relay danger, to pass info along, to give direction. There's lots of reasons. So we have to figure out ground rules for developing effective leadership teams. So what we do is we go through, and if we have time on this podcast, we go through the 4 animal groups. It's very simplistic, but you know, you have otters and lions and retrievers.
I've decided I'm a retriever.
Yeah. I'm a retriever owl is what
I'm just glad to be here.
The OCD person who could get your library in order, but I'm just glad to be part of the band.
Right.
You know, whatever you need done, you know, kind of thing. And so we kind of go through that process, and we'll kind of come back.
You do that with your leadership team.
Yeah, we do that with our leadership team. So they go through the whole process, and then they decide what the band directors are without talking to the band directors.
Ooh.
You know, said Mike Lunney, what is he? Is he a retriever? Is he a lion? Because we kind of associate lions with what we consider the strongest leaders. And that's not necessarily true. You know,
King of the forest.
Yeah, in sports and military, it kind of is. the lion personality, not lying, lions like a lion.
Say,
Yeah, they're the ones that are the strongest leaders because they're the most forceful. They're determined. Their characteristics kind of scream to that. In fact, while we got it going, let's just go ahead and go into that because that sounds like a perfect segue to do this pretty quickly.
okay.
But yeah, you have and I'll do it pretty quick. It's not so quick that we lose anything of importance, but I do it as 4 animal groups. One is the lion. They're kind of a dominant personality type. They get to the point. They don't waste their time with small talk. They give direct, honest answers. They look directly at them and they speak loud and clear. They're confident in what they have to say. They respect those who are powerful as they are. Those are the lions. They're your problem solvers. They help out. And so with each one of these, with lions, one of their, I guess, strengths and weaknesses. One is they like to make decisions.
That's a strength.
That's a strength. So I'll just give the same example. It's a kid trying to teach another kid how to memorize their music for marching contest. So if I'm working with a kid and I know they're a lion, because I track them all the way from beginner band. They're in my computer as what animal group they are. And if they're a lion, then I know that when I meet with them, they're not going to respond well to me telling them what to do. But if I go, hey, we have some problems with articulation, some problems with memory on the closer, where do we breathe on the ballad? What do you want to work with, Derek? What do you want to work on today? Because you're a lion, and it's like I feed to their strength.
Right.
Where if it's but that's how we get it. And I'll do it on each one. The next
and they
one,
respond with I think we should do this.
They'll tell you, but you notice I gave them the choices and only gave them choices that were choices that I was happy with the answer.
Right.
It's still their choice, but I didn't say, what do you want to work on? So here's the 3 things I think need to be worked on. What do you want to work on, Derek? And so we go for that. The next one is otter, and I don't understand these people at all. The otters are they socialize the first. They love having a good sense of humor. They're not very serious. They're very friendly and attentive. They love parties. They love social venues. Their goal in life is to make things better for all the people around them. And it's in otters. Sometimes they're seen as like the class clown, but they're a very important part of our family. To have the otters. So if you have an otter, the best thing you can do is never work with one to memorize their music. Get 2 or 3 otters. Get a whole herd of otters. Is a herd of otters? I don't know. We'll have to look that up on Google. Let's Google search that. What's a group of otters called? A tribe? I don't know. But then we get them together, and then we can get them together and say, all right, let's see who can play the furthest by memory. So and then they'll start to help each other. You'll think they're getting nothing done. You'll think the lions are the only ones that can accomplish anything, but otters get everything accomplished. It's just in a really weird way to me. But to an otter, it's a very normal way. They do it through social interaction. Okay. The next one is Derek and I guess. We're the retrievers. When speaking to someone's dominant personality style is retriever, be gentle in your approach with them. Being overly harsh or critical will
be gentle.
Be gentle. They would rather listen than talk, which doesn't describe me very well because I have a podcast and you're my partner in crime in this. Be willing to share yourself with them. Take your time with them. They're typically not in a hurry to get through something. Remember that they want their own power, and their power is being a member of the group. They encourage and support them. So the retrievers are the ones that are kind of a bulk of the band. I found like probably about 70% of our band kids are retrievers. And, the otter just wants to have a party. I'm simplifying. The lion just wants to tell people what to do. The retriever just wants to get it done. There's just what needs to happen and I'll get it done. And then there's the owls. When speaking of dominant personality, the OCD owls, they want blow by blow descriptions on how we're going to do this. You know what I mean? The retriever with learning their marching music, such a breeze. Derek, if you don't learn this, you're going to let down the band. And
I'll do it, and I love you.
You're a member of this band, and we depend on you to know your trumpet part. And that's about all you have to do. They'll just run off screaming and learn their parts. They won't even ask you a question. They'll just go figure out how to play it. So, but then we get to the owls. they want accurate information. They want facts. They want figures. They're the accountants, librarians of the band program. Okay. Acknowledge them for their ability to absorb knowledge. They love wit and intelligent conversation. Okay. So an owl, if you have them and you're teaching them the music, your job is to go, all right, Derek, you're an owl. We don't tell them that. I never tell them what they are. And I go, we need to work on the opener. We're going to do it at 120 beats per minute. We're going to do the first 8 measures. Boom, boom, boom. It starts at forte. There's a decrescendo in measure 4. Play that for me. Okay, turn your music over. Play it again. What parts did you miss, Derek? Okay, how are you going to make that better? Very good. Turn the music back over. Let's do that again. They want a process. That's probably where my process stuff comes from, because I'm an owl/retriever. And you'd think that I'd be a lion. I have to fake the characteristics of a lion sometimes. We all do that, right? I have to fake the characteristics of an otter sometimes. If I'm in a social situation, I've got to pretend like I want to be there when I want to be at home eating popcorn, watching Netflix by myself. But I know that, we're at the band banquet. I've got to be social. Dang it.
All things to all people. Yep.
Yeah. So we have to sometimes fake those other things. But that kind of gets you through the communication thing.
See my owlisms sometimes when I say, you'll say all the things you just said, and I'll say, all right, now I can already tell you that I'm having trouble in this measure with these 3 little things here, and I don't know exactly why, but I can tell you that that's where I'm going to mess up.
Yeah.
I've already analyzed it before I ever give it a shot.
Yeah. And you've already decided where your mistakes are going to be.
Right. Probably the weakness.
Yeah.
Hey, just so you know, a group of otters is called a romp.
A romp?
ROMP.
Cool.
When they're on land because of their playful nature.
Okay.
Or a raft when they're all floating together in the water.
Okay.
So now you know.
Good. Now I'll know the next time I talk to him.
Okay, you romp of otters, get over here.
You romp, you bunch of romps. I think he called us rumps. So what's Mr. Is Mr. Lunney snapping at us? Again?
Let's make sure. Elocution is important.
Yeah, make sure to enunciate your consonants very carefully, or you'll have a mama calling.
A correct vowel sound.
And we go through that, and communication is definitely going to be one of the biggest things that we try to do. And it's always, I say always, it seems to almost always be our failure, doesn't it?
Right.
That most problems come from somewhere a lack of communication. Okay, and then we do some ground rule things, personal strengths inventory worksheet. Doesn't that sound informative? Doesn't that sound awesome? Fun? But it's actually, in our leadership stuff, it's one of the most fun things they do. What they do is they list what they think are their 3 biggest strengths. Okay. And then they list the characteristic qualities I most admire in others. Then they list a person who had the greatest effect on their life to make them a better person. It could be a grandparent, it could be a coach, it could be a sister, it could just be a best friend, whoever it was that had that big influence on their life, and why. And so once they do all that, they're kind of thinking, what are we doing with all this? And I'm going, I don't want to see any of that. So here's what we're going to do now. There's 15 of us, and all 15 of you are going to go one at a time to another person. And you've already written down this stuff. You're going to tell that person a strength they have. They're going to tell you a strength you have. And then you're going to write those down on your paper, what other people have told you. And then you're going to share your story of number 4, which is, who's the person that had the greatest impact on your life and why? Simple, straightforward. And so we go through that whole process. And by the time you get to like 15 combinations of that, it's really interesting, because all of a sudden the room is really loud in a good way. It started kind of like, we got to do this stupid exercise, kind of like those icebreakers that you do at business meetings and whatever. They got to do a stupid icebreaker. No, this isn't an icebreaker. But at the end of it, they're going to be really loud in a good way, because in our life, Derek, we are told how bad we are. We are told how incompetent we are. And it's usually because people love us and they're trying to make us better people. That's kind of sad, but it's true, isn't it? They tell us all our faults. Well, you need to do this better, Mike. Mike, you need to do this better. And we try to do better. But I tell you what, after 30 minutes of all these students telling each other the strengths the other ones possessed and who had the biggest impact on their life, man, they are bonded for life now because that tape runs in our head of you're not good enough. You're not good enough. You just had 14 people tell you, Derek, this is your strength. And I'm going to tell you what I think your strength is. It's a mind-blowing experience for the
That's
kids.
great.
And if it's my own band, I participate in it. I tell them all the strengths I think they have, and they have to tell me a strength they think I have. You know,
Mm.
and do some of those strengths get repeated? Yeah. Like I think Derek has a really good sense of humor, and I think that's a really good way of him communicating with people. But if we had 14 people in the room, you might have 6 of those tell you the same exact thing. You might have another say, man, he's really, he takes care of business. He has a process of how to be a manager. You know what I mean? Some things will repeat because that's part of your core individual personality. Okay?
And that's also how they relate to you at the time. As their teacher, some of that's naturally going to be what they think is a strength. If they think you're a good teacher, they're going to say you do strongly things that teach us well.
Yeah. And you're exactly right. And I can tell you a really good example of that. When my son was dating my senior drum major, her response to what my strength was a whole lot different than the clarinet section leader.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because she said,
her perspective was different.
Yeah, because she'd been dating my son for a year. You know, her perspective was, you have a really open mind when it comes to different ideas and things of that nature. And the clarinet player might be, you really do a good job teaching marching. Right. Which both I'm in good respect. I'm glad to have both those strengths. But yeah, so as you get to know students better, those strengths become more philosophical strengths instead of you be good trumpet teacher.
You be good.
Yeah, you be good. You teach us push right valve down. Very good.
This is completely off subject. If as you get this, do you think maybe you have evolved somewhat as a teacher if your responses aren't necessarily teaching comments and they are encouraging people building strengths that they mentioned to you?
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking back, some of the ones that, outside the teaching realm of one section leader said, well, Mr. Lunney, I think one of your strengths is when you see someone doing a job, you're always willing to pitch in. If we're setting up chairs and stands, you don't go to your office and just wait for us to finish. You come out there and help us.
That's awesome.
And you might said, but Mr. Lunney, you might only move like 4 chairs.
But they love you.
But you at least got your rear end out of the office and came out.
But you know how much more I would want to hear that as I pour into people's lives. I'm speaking to the directors that are listening. I'd so much want to hear them say things like that than, well, you helped me figure out multiple meter.
Yeah.
You taught me rhythms.
Yeah.
And listen, if that's all they've got, that's all they got. And it's not to belittle and take it graciously, but man, I think leadership begets leadership. That's where I'm going with all this. That if they see you effectively leading them, they will notice your leadership traits as much as they will notice subject matter.
Yes. That is absolutely true. No, that's I think that's a very good point. Very good point. And so it's just a matter of, and we've said it before in different podcasts, but it's like teaching someone how to speak French. You can't just give them a book and say, now speak French. You must speak French for them.
Right.
Do it. And to teach kids how to be leaders, they must see the good and the bad in you as a leader in order to become a leader themselves. They need to see that, you're trying to do things the right way.
Yeah.
At least I hope we are. Okay. And then we kind of talk about understanding behavior, discussing why people behave certain ways. I think my biggest example of that is the difference of beach party fun and getting good fun or getting better.
I remember this. This is great.
Yeah. So, beach party fun requires no thought process. You're just hanging out. You're just having a good time with your friends. And that's fun. Yeah. And I think that's important in life to have enough of that. Then there's getting better fun. That's what we do on let's say, use marching field for an example. We're watching paint dry by learning drill. You know what I mean? It's just the most boring. Learning how to do drill on the field is absolutely just boring. Now when you put drill with music, and you perform it, it's really thrilling. But to learn how to do drill, I'll set 16, go 16 counts, take a curvilinear path. Okay, guard, yield right away to the trumpet section in this particular drill move. It's very meticulous, but you get better at something. So that's getting better fun.
That's process.
Yeah, process. But we run into problems with bands and churches and a Rotary Club and everything else, Lions Club, is when half the people want beach party fun at an event and the other half want getting better fun, because pretty soon they're just snapping at each other, aren't they? If you cared about band, you'd pay attention. If you just relax a little bit over there, we could have some fun and actually enjoy being here in band.
Right.
So I think the best way to do that is to use your student leadership to develop some beach party fun outside of rehearsal, or sometimes in the middle of rehearsal. Have it planned, though. So the kids know that we're going to do this for 40 minutes, and then we're going to spray you down with water from the fire trucks.
5-minute beach party. 5-minute beach party. Let's go.
So we'll have that kind of taken care of. And guidelines for your leadership team of working with people when they misbehave. Because
I'm interested in this.
Yeah, we're past the days of your job is to tell them to do push-ups when they talk in band.
Right.
Student leader person. We delve into the fact that if you have a person in I'll just use section leaders because the full band is a little hard to encompass. But a section leader, if there's someone in your trumpet section who is misbehaving today, but has never misbehaved before, then you don't ever, in any circumstance, even this one, but you do not have the authority to give out punishment.
Right.
You have the authority to correct and to tell them you don't think this is correct. And you have the authority to tell them how they should do it better, but you do not have the authority to give out, you're going to run a lap. You're going to do push-ups. You just lost your spot on the field. You can't give the kids that responsibility. It's too much for them to handle. It's too much for the followers to handle. Okay. But we have to figure out that if that kid misbehaved today, has never misbehaved before, wouldn't it be more appropriate, student leader, Mr. Derek, trumpet section leader, just to kind of pretend like you don't see them misbehaving for a little bit. And then during a break, go over to them and go,
"Are you okay?
Yeah, is everything okay?" Now, they might just kind of shut you down and go, "Know your business." And if so, maybe it isn't our business. But at least they know someone has noticed what they're doing and wants to help them. Or they might just totally open up to you and say, "This is what's bothering me."
Right.
And then if they do that, then you've got a chance to create a bridge to that relationship instead of, "Derek, what's wrong with you? You've never misbehaved before. Now you're acting like an idiot. What the hell's wrong with you?"
Right.
And then all of a sudden they're like, "Well, screw you. I don't even want to be here." We leave all our problems on the outside the yard lines. We don't bring those on the field with us, Derek. You need to grow up. That might be appropriate if it's a kid who misbehaves all the time. So this is a real fragile subject, because you're asking kids to deal with other kids when it's harder. They have the hardest job. My job's easy. I'm the band director.
Right.
I don't give a rip if anyone likes me. As far as dealing out discipline, if they've misbehaved and I decide that they need to run a lap or do 20 push-ups, then that's what they're going to do, or they're going to quit band. That's my job. I reserve that as my authority, and I'm not going to give that to anyone else because it's no one else's authority. And I don't want them to have to deal with the repercussions of telling their friends that they're now going to be punished, because we get into this whole discipline versus punishment, which is two completely separate fields. Punishment is just a consequence for misbehavior. Right. Discipline is what you build in a band where they feel like they behave correctly with a sense of unit, authority, and pride as a disciplined person. Even when there's not authority present, they will still operate the same way. Once you get to that level of high level thinking, then you got something. You got kids who will go to the ends of the earth to make that band the best band in the world, whatever that means. It might be a third division this year. It might be the best we can do. That's okay. Let's just do the best we can do. Was it Don Hanna? Do the best you can, and that will be good enough.
Yep.
That's a great quote.
Isn't it?
Yeah, just do the best you can, comma. That will be good enough. As long as it's the best you can, it's good enough. So we've got to really preach that to them. But I see so many directors that give the kids authority to assess consequences. If they don't do this, then this is what's going to happen to them. They're going to lose their third quarter privilege or whatever. And it's okay if you tell them that. Don't do it.
Right.
Don't do it. It is a can of worms. And then as a leader, we preach to them about, they will respond with the energy that you give to them. If you just sitting in a chair on the sideline, sipping an iced tea, telling those kids in your clarinet section they need to march better, are they going to respond to that? No. How many times do I go to clinics and they tell me their kids are apathetic? In kind of our briefing beforehand, I just don't know. The kids are apathetic. And then they get up in front of the kids and go,
here we are again.
Concert F. Oh, that was wrong again. F. Remington. Can we not just change together? Every day I tell you kids to do the same thing and you don't do it. I wonder why my kids are apathetic. How about, hey man, F. Remington, this applies to our show in this way because we've got to make sure we change on the ballad. The chords change together. So let's get after it, guys. Change together. Subdivide 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and change. Say that with me. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and change. You've got to give. And false enthusiasm is better than no enthusiasm. Because eventually you will get excited. How many times have you done that at work? I'll go to my job as a band director and I'll think, man, my nose is stopped up. I'm breathing dirt that's blown in from Lubbock, and now all the trees are doing their thing, and I've got pollen, and I think I've got yellow pollen under my nose, and I've got a lung full of dirt from Lubbock that just blew in last night, and I just don't even. I could care less what the band does today. Everyone gets those feelings, guys. Everyone gets those feelings, but you got to put it aside and have false enthusiasm. You've got to. It's only 45 minutes or an hour. Put on that false show of bravado of you're excited to be here. Because you know what? Every time I do that, guess what happens, Derek? I become excited.
It turns genuine. I was going to tell you,
by minute 15, I'm excited because the kids are responding and and they're getting excited. And is everything perfect? No, I feel like crap. I can barely breathe. I didn't sleep last night because I couldn't even breathe out my nose anymore. You know what I mean? So I'm just a mouth breather all night. So now, but the kids are responding. So I'm going to get excited.
But they have proven that if you will raise your eyebrows when you're talking, you naturally sound happier. Yeah. They have proven that that you can start with false laughter, make yourself laugh, no matter how fake it is. If you do it enough, it turns into actual laughter and your attitude improves and your attitude changes. And I'm not saying you stand on the podium and go, ha, 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 until you feel good enough about it.
Yeah.
But exactly what you're saying, if I heard somebody say it this way the other day, that I'm going to say things out of my mouth and eventually my heart will catch up.
Oh, I like that. I've never heard that.
And so
that one.
I'm going to say positive things and my heart and my attitude will eventually catch up.
That's really good.
If I maintain that. So
yeah, I like that a lot. That a lot. But yeah, you've got to exhibit that energy. And honestly, if you give 100%, be excited if they give back 80.
Yep.
But that's better than giving 20 and getting back 5. You know what I mean? This is such a hard job. I think Doyce Pace, he's a hero of mine.
I know where you're going.
Right? You know where I'm going. This job is too damn hard not to love it.
Not to love it.
That is such a beautiful quote. And he told that to some young director. This job is too damn hard not to love it. And he's right, because it is too damn hard. And if you don't love it, you best start driving a Frito truck or something. You know what I mean? Find something else to do with your time, because I'm not saying even what you'll do to a band as far as their performance levels.
Sure.
You're just going to be a miserable person.
Right. And I would say, even just from the human standpoint, find something you love. If this ain't it, find something you love.
Yeah. My dad's quote was always just as genuine. He said, Mike, do something you love for your job. You won't make much money. That was his quote. So, but you'll enjoy life. I
Almost
thought
as a thought bubble.
that's really a good quote. So, do what you love for a living, and you're expecting and you'll never work another day in your life. Do what you
You
love
won't
for a
make
living.
much money.
You won't get paid much, but,
That's great.
Thanks, Dad. I love you, man. I love you. Okay. But it's the next thing we do is this habit formation in relation to goals. We do an action plan, and that's real straightforward. We just have a blank sheet with like 1 through 20 with blanks next to it. And we have the kids individually said, now what's our biggest goal as a band? And they said, blah, 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 whatever it was. I think the funniest one I ever had, I love telling this story. There was one year that, we had not gone to state marching, and it was every other year. Then the next rotation, we had not gone again. So the next rotation, oh man, Mr. Lunney was geared up to go to state marching. I mean, I was ready, Mr. Derek. I got the best show I could find. John Meehan from the Blue Devils was arranging our music. I'd found the money to get all this stuff done. And I asked my student leadership, what's going to be our big band goal this year? And I think I've gone over this with you before. Do you remember what their big goal was?
Have more parties.
To have more parties. That was their goal. And then the lady who was eventually going to be my daughter-in-law, she was only a sophomore at the time. She goes, Mr. Lunney.
Here's what I want you to do. I want you to speak to what your reaction to that was when you saw that, or when you heard that for the first time.
It must have been very visceral because, because that's my future daughter-in-law goes, Mr. Lunney, before you have a stroke, let's explain this. So we've actually thought about this. Yeah, this wasn't just made up. And she explained that, if we can have more social events for the students and have more parties, the kids will want to be in band. If they want to be in band, they might practice harder. We were 5th in state that year.
Wow.
In state marching with our goal on our poster that we took with us on the trailer and had the kids tap it in the tunnel going out.
Party bed.
Have more parties. Have more parties. Great. And so don't neglect the fact that these kids are brilliant. And I was studying all the processes and the process whatever you want to call it. I don't know even what it's called. I was very scientific in how I was going to get this band back to state marching because I just knew we had a good band. I knew these kids were good players and they were good marchers and we could do this. They had the secret magic potion, didn't they?
But here's what I'm going to tell you. They bought into it because they knew exactly what they were trying to motivate for and what they were trying to accomplish. You can't disqualify a serious thing, even if it makes you go, what?
Yeah.
When she explained that, when I heard you say she explained that way, then I would go, okay.
I can go with that.
I see that.
And there's also a certain level of trust between the band director and the student leadership team that they feel they trust me enough to know I will present the music and drill in a logical way that they can learn it if they can take care of the other part. Because I told them, I said, I don't have anything to do with scheduling parties because I am not an Otter. It's not in my wheelhouse. I would schedule something and everyone would go, oh my God, that's stupid.
So sounds overwhelming. Let's memorize multiplication tables.
Yeah. For me, it's like, let's stick to the process. So we find those people who can do that and they schedule it. And this other sense of trust was the fact that I allowed them to have that as their goal. I could have shot that down. I've got the ultimate veto. I can go, that's really not what I'm looking for as a goal. Y'all need to go back to the table. We need something better. But it was like, no, they've thought about this. They've talked it over. I gave them 20 minutes to come up with this.
Right. And they even had the beginnings of the process.
They trusted me and I trusted them. And I did tell them, though, said, now you're trusting me to present the show and teach it to you. I'm trusting you to present the culture, to have this band ready. We're either going to get to state finals or we're going to go down in flames at area.
But you know what's awesome?
And I think we're going to go down in flames. But let's just trust each other. Let's do it.
I've shared, I think, this with you before. When I moved to Houston, I went into a band, and on the wall was one of those huge, I don't know where they got paper that big. Do you know where all that paper comes from? But anyway, it's plastered up there on the wall, 20 feet in the air. It says, band is fun, fun is band.
Yeah.
And at face value, you're like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
But listening to you describe it that way, and the reality hits you at some point, these are people that I care about, that I'm I'm working side by side with, and in the end, it's fun.
Yeah. And we
And
win
my
together.
fun is
We go down
his
in
fun.
flames together.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
It
So
didn't
there's
say
a
have
love
more
of God.
parties.
Yeah, it's kind of like a jet pilot in the military versus the control tower. Both things are needed, aren't they? You
Right.
know what I mean? So we've got to trust each other, just like a jet pilot in the control tower. We've got to trust each other, because if someone makes a mistake in their situation, lives, we're not talking lives, but it is really important to us how the band does on a Friday night. How do the kids do they want to be in band? If no one wants to be in band, we've seen those
Right.
where you can just tell when they get to contests, there's not a kid on that field that wants to be in that band. Even the band directors don't want to be here. Nobody wants to be here, because I can tell by what they're doing. And going back to your idea about, people, if you have false enthusiasm, it develops. Isn't it interesting, like on a telephone, just listening to someone? I mean, in the old days, for you younger people, we used to call each other on phones.
Without caller ID.
Yeah, but without caller ID. But you can tell when someone's smiling when they're talking to you on the phone.
Right. And that's what that's why we tell people to raise their eyebrows.
Yeah,
and smile.
You can. I don't know why, but you can hear it. It's something about. I don't know. It's physiological. I have no earthly idea, but it's there. So we've got to present in that way. And then not the last thing, but the one I want to finish with is our mission statement. And mission statements can get real dry. They can get real boring. You know what I mean? Because everybody has a mission statement. Well, that's our mission statement. But keep it simple. You can make
I'm glad you said that. I think my big thing with mission statements is it's like in the criteria for mission statements, somebody said, I want you to put as many words and as many commas and the longest run-on sentence you can think of.
Yes,
for our mission statement.
Of the Wiley Pure Gold Marching Band, on further consensus, have found out through legitimate causes that we can advance our fundamentals through the following manner, and then have 14 bullet points that no one even gives a rip about. So we talk about our mission statement. The first thing is, what's our title? Who are we? Are we the Pure Gold? Are we the Marching 100? Whatever. And then it should reflect your core beliefs. And I always tell them that, and it sounds so bad to say it this way maybe, but our mission statement is developed as a way to brainwash the band into understanding our core beliefs. It's just like church.
Right.
If you're not sure, answer Jesus. No one's going to say Jesus is wrong. If they say Jesus. Oh, yes. Yeah. Very philosophical, Mike. Jesus, that's the right answer. Okay. The answer is always in the Bible, and it's always Jesus. But in band, we are waterboarding them with this to brainwash them on the core beliefs that we want them, because they're honest, confident beliefs that'll make you a better person. We're not trying to trick them into doing something, but it needs to be short enough that it can be read about every 3 or 4 days by a different student leader at the end of rehearsal. They should read it to the band, and it has to have few enough points that at the end of the 6 weeks, those students should be able to recite that mission statement in their own words. It shouldn't be like a Boy Scout motto or something. You know what I mean? But they should be able to tell you what are our core beliefs. Our core belief says everyone should feel safe in our rehearsals to be wrong. That's a core belief, that every person is an important part of our ensemble. We will work diligently to create the best show we can possibly develop on Friday night in a contest. That might be the only 3 things in your mission statement. And to your point, don't list 14 bullet points and then try to read that to them. There's a reason why all those ministers give 3 points in their sermons. They don't give 21 points because, no one cares at that point. They're like, we're tired of listening to this person.
Right.
So keep it short and simple, and then keep that mission statement. I always have them do the mission statement, and then they put it on a big giant poster board, and they sign around it. And then at the first couple of days of summer band, we let the leadership talk about the mission statement to the band. They introduce each core belief, one a day. Then by Friday, we post the mission statement, and we give them Sharpies, and we ask them all to sign it.
Commit to it, right?
Yeah, if you can agree with what we're doing here, we'd love to have your signature on this. This is not a legally binding contract, but it's just a small token of your acknowledgement that you're saying, I can live with this. We call that consensus. Consensus is when, something we don't know in society anymore. So we have to teach it to kids. Consensus is I don't agree with everything, but I agree with the core belief and the core principles of what you're talking about. Let's discuss how we're going to get there. That's might be where we have different opinions. Okay. And everything that I just talked about, now, would take probably to do it correctly about 6 hours, but that can be broken up into 6 meetings of 45 minutes each. Or you could divide up things and have different parts of your band do different things. So I guess kind of a takeaway from it, it's a lot of work to organize, schedule, deal with drama, reward the students who are in your leadership team, but it will pay off in making your program better, and it'll make your job easier by delegating work, and it'll make them better people. And I think we all agree out there in Ask Mike Land that if people are better people that you're working with, your product will be better, and everyone will enjoy being a part of the team.
Right.
And that's not just hearsay. That's legit.
I would kind of say this way and see if you agree with this. Culture is hard enough.
Yeah.
If you don't create process to help create your culture, you'll never have it. You'll have it, but you won't have a goal. You won't have people pulling the same direction. You won't have buy-in. Because listen, as a musician who's performed in garage bands, for lack of a better term, or cover bands, at some point you realize, we finally have we found our sound. This is us. This is most comfortable. This is who we are.
This is our fingerprint.
And it was a long, sometimes hard road to get to.
Oh, yeah.
And what you're saying here is, let's put in the work up front.
Oh, yeah.
And if you'll put the work in now, instead of hoping sometime by October we find our sound.
Yeah. And what a great teaching life lesson of most things we get ourselves involved with. It goes the way you just said. We just kind of throw things together, and organically we think a culture will develop.
It'll happen.
And it doesn't. It can, but it's not the best way to do it. There's a quote I use when teaching band a lot, that there's no such thing as advanced fundamentals. There are only advanced situations that require stronger fundamentals. And exactly. I use the same type of quote with culture. There's not better culture, worse culture. There's negative and positive culture. And if you don't, it's like a line. A line is a straight line. If it's not a straight line, it's not a line. And so we have to develop that culture in our band. And there's no philosophical things. Everything I just went through are very straightforward.
It's pragmatic stuff, right?
It's very pragmatic. We just do the work, and then we get to enjoy the results for it. So I would say, it'll make your job easier if you put the work up front. The kids will know what they're doing. I think the best example I had was I had a couple of drum majors when young in my early years, like third year of teaching. And I told my old high school band director, I said, I don't know what to do. They're just not good drum majors. And he goes, well, what do you mean? So, we get to the game and all they worry about is putting on their makeup and getting their hair done or whatever. I said, well, Mike, have you told them what they're supposed to do? Dang it, Greg.
Silence.
Yeah. And I guess you're right. I guess they are waiting for me. They don't just through osmosis figure out how to be a drum major. That was a life lesson for me, that if you want them to behave a certain way, tell them what your expectations are. You can't just assume that they're going to be a leader. Just because kids like them doesn't make them a leader.
Right.
Yeah.
And here we are back to our process conversation. If your goal is good culture, what's the process to get there? Here it is.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have this in handout form. I don't know if this is something that Rick can put on the page.
Yeah, he can pull from those notes that I gave him. The book that I used to teach leadership is about 90 pages.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And then it requires someone who has gone through the process in order to interpret some of that. You know what I mean? And then I just broke it down through the whole year. And then we just went through. This was only the opening volley of artillery.
Right.
You know what I mean? This is the first 6-hour meeting.
Let me ask Mike.
Morning, 3 in the afternoon.
That this got easier as you went along in your career. The first couple of times, you really kind of had.
And it got a whole lot easier when I started teaching it to other groups. Well, not just Mike, but I understand the laugh is like, yeah, if I actually teach the kids what to do. And it really made me learn a lot when I would work with 20 other groups. And you see all the little warts and the damages and the complaints. I think one of the best questions ever, kind of chasing a rabbit, but I'd ask, if you were the band director, think about last year. What is something you would change for the better, and how would you do it? That's a hard question when it's your band.
And then you have to listen to the feedback.
You're asking them to expose your weakness.
Yep.
But that's how most positive changes happened. And usually in another school, I'd ask the band director to leave. I said, can you leave for 30 minutes? Because we're going to be talking about you. And I want the kids to be open with me. And then sometimes they would arrive at some really genius solutions that no one had thought of. So it's a very positive thing, but it's, ripping off the Band-Aid. Sometimes it hurts when kids or leaders telling you, well, Mr. Lunney, I don't think our rehearsals are as efficient as you think they are. And
I also want to hear you say, if you agree with this or not, there's not a shortcut to it. This is the process.
No, you just, there's no way to get the firewood but to cut the log apart.
You can't do just the parts that you think sound fun and they might enjoy it. We do the whole thing.
Yeah, you got to have the getting better fun and the beach party fun. You got to have kids, and you've got to physically, mentally raise them to a level of maturity that they understand what's happening. And to do that, you as a director must act mature.
Yeah.
And if you don't, apologize.
All right.
Man, this has been fun.
And I also think that it's such a rewarding thing. You would have to tell me to, at the end of the year, go back, man, that was a great leadership team.
Yes.
I'm so excited at the things that they helped this group accomplish.
And I tell you what, Derek, I've got one in particular that kind of, when you said that, kind of popped out. He's a young man that's a squadron commander for those, is it CJ-9s, those hospital jets that take the wounded soldiers from the Middle East up to Germany. And I was meeting with him one time. He just wanted to have lunch when he came home to Abilene. And he goes, I tell you what, so I really enjoyed being in band. He was an all-state saxophone player, and he was lead tenor in the jazz band. He was a great musician. He goes, but what helped me more than anything was the leadership training. Said I learned a lot through that. It said it helped me in the Air Force Academy, and it helped me become a squadron commander to be able to deal with people. Said, and granted, said we took it and put it on steroids, you know what I mean, to get to a level where you're dealing with multi-million-dollar airplanes, and you've got a whole surgical team in the bay of the plane operating on soldiers as you're trying to get them up to Germany. You know what I mean? Said it's a little different than trying to learn your fight song.
But you know what I mean? To what you said earlier, you are creating foundational levels of leadership.
Yeah.
And when it's not a foreign subject, I can't tell you how many stories I've heard of people who wind up in a leadership position, whether on purpose or by accident, who have no idea how to lead.
Yeah, you've told me that story before. And was it band president?
Yeah,
they just made you band president.
Well, I assume they just wanted some guy to go up and take the trophy when we won it, right?
Yeah, that's what the band president does. Yeah.
But I mean, even beyond that in life, if we don't teach these kids how to think like leaders and become leaders and get everybody pulling the same way, isn't that kind of really part of our job? It's not just teaching them multiplication tables.
I would think it would be.
It's that we there's got to be, Mr. Miss Band Director, an inherent part of you that wants to see better people. And we keep coming back to that.
Yeah. And it's what I learned as a high school kid from Greg Miller and from Skywriters, from John Simpson, or from college with Bob Jorgensen, and it's all a reflection of that, is that everything I'm doing is stolen from those people. Yeah.
And we pass it to the next one. Man, this was fun. Thank you.
You bet.
I enjoyed that. And I know that we'll have an equally enjoyable conversation next time we cross paths. So you be safe.
Next round, we're getting some guests on the podcast. It'll be exciting.
Fun.
Yeah.
Again.
Aubrey Logan. No, I'm kidding. Sorry. Miss Logan, could you be on my podcast?
I want you to end that right there, Rick.